I call to order this December 11th, 2023 Harris County Board of Public Education Board meeting. Would all rise for the presentation of colors, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May be seated. That was the North Henderson High School Air Force JROTC under the leadership of Colonel Eric Runquist. So next up is going to be election of board officers. Before I get started, wanted to remind the crowd that per policy 2200 under our board policies, a person can be elected chair for Henderson County Public Schools for 4 one-year terms. After those 4 one-year terms are up, you must cycle off for 2 years. So I've been on the board or as a chair for 4 years. I'm no longer eligible to be chairman. So with that being said, Ms. Lopez, our attorney, is going to handle the election of the officers.
Thank you, Mr. Craven. So first, I'm going to open the floor for nominations for the offices of Chair and Vice Chair of the Henderson County Board of Education. The board will vote on the nominations in the order received, and you must receive to be elected, as for either office, there must be a majority vote. So after the election of the chair, then we will proceed to the election of the vice chair. So the floor is now open for nominations for the position of chair. Do I hear any nominations?
Ms. Lopez, I would like to nominate Jay Egoff for chair of the Henderson County Board of Public Education.
Mr. Egoff, do you accept the nomination? Yes. Okay. Are there any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, I hereby close the floor, and we will now proceed to vote on nominations in the order, the only nomination we have. So all of those in favor of Jay Egoff as chair, please raise your hand. And I see that all board members are in favor.
6. We do have 1 board member missing today, so.
Okay. So 6 board members, but clearly a majority. And so congratulations, Mr. Egoff. Now proceeding to the election of vice chair. The floor is now open for nominations. Do I hear any nominations for vice chair?
Ms. Lopez, I would like to nominate Dr. Kathy Revis for the position of vice chair.
Okay. Dr. Revis, do you accept this nomination?
I do.
Okay. Are there any other nominations for vice chair? Hearing no other nominations, I hereby close the floor, and we will now proceed to a vote. All those in favor of Dr. Kathy Revis as vice chair, please raise your hand. And let the record reflect that all board members present voted in favor. And so you've now elected Dr. Revis as vice chair. Congratulations, Dr. Revis.
Mr. Egoff, this seat's yours, sir. move your bag. Yes, sir.
And we'd like to right now call
Lolly Diaz-Mar.
Sidlali Diaz-Mar for staff and student recognitions. She. Sure. All right, well, let's go ahead and I would like to see approval of the agenda for this meeting.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Is there a second? Oh. Go ahead and vote. Let's go ahead and vote on that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Don't we know all this? All right, any opposition? Okay, we will accept the agenda. And now we'll go back to Ms. Diaz-Mar to speak of the student staff and recognitions.
It looks easy, doesn't it?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, it's my honor to honor this junior from North Henderson High School this evening, Sidlali Diaz-Mar. Do we have the? All right, so Sidlali has provided a back-to-back win for Henderson County Public Schools. We mentioned a gentleman last year from Apple Valley who won this same contest, and we have now had a second winner with Sidlali. She received a $3,000 cash scholarship for sharing in 500 words or less a person, group, or cultural experience that has helped her connect to her Hispanic culture and what it means to her. So this is provided by Optimum and Televisa Univision, Hispanic Heritage Month essay contest. So across Hispanic Heritage Month, they take these essays. They had over 1,000 entries. So one of over 1,000 entries was the winner. Second year in a row, as you see, Christopher, a student at Apple Valley, was the grand prize winner last year. And I've gotten to know Sidlali just a little bit in the last month. So real excited to have her not only win this contest, but she also serves on the P20 Youth Council Advisory Group that we have some students from Henderson County, and that is in a regional capacity, and she applied for that honor as well. And as a junior, we look for many, many big things to come from you, Sidlali. So is there anything you want to share about this experience or about kind of tell them what you focused your essay on?
Hi, I'm Sidlali Diaz, and I am a junior over at North Henderson High School, and it's an honor to be here. So thank you for having the time to take me today. And the essay focused on the cultural aspect of dance. Dance has always been a really important part of my life for me, ever growing up. So I just really focused on that in my essay, and I just talked about how it has transcended generations, you know. Years later, it's been decades and centuries since these dances have been created, and me and my peers, you know, we still dance to the same rhythms, just in a different way, but we still connect to our culture. And as Mr. Mark Garrett mentioned, I am also part of the P20 Council, Youth Council for the Land of Sky region. Actually, today, I went over to AB Tech because we had a videography session talking about like what have been challenges or barriers that we have faced in our educational journey, or any like criticisms or just feedback that we want our region to take in terms of the workforce availability and just the education system. So it's been an honor. Thank you.
So Sidlali, we've got a certificate for you. Make sure give it to your mom so she can put it up wherever she'd like. And we'd love to grab your picture over there. But again, congratulations. One thing I want to say about Sitlali too is she loves North Henderson High School. I found that out the first day. She is a knight, true and forever, I believe. So you can take that back and share that with your entire staff. But certainly she's going to be a great ambassador for us, not only here, but as she moves on. And we've got her for one more year after this. So we're excited to see what kind of work we can get out of her, right? All right. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, we kept this month's kind of short so that we could get to the program highlight. So I'll let you share with the crowd what the program highlight will be. So thank you for the opportunity.
Well, we are not quite finished with North Henderson High. We have some holiday music. That's why these people are here. Looking forward to hearing this. Directed by Miss Tracy Mumford and the orchestra teacher out at North. And so I guess they're going to be coming up. And we're going to swap
Good
places.
time to make a transition. And if the board would like, you're welcome to sit out in the crowd so you get a bird's eye view.
Thank you so much. This is the North Henderson High School Orchestra. I'm Tracy Mumford. I'm the new director in North Henderson High School and Apple Valley Middle School. It's been a pleasure working with these students. The first piece we'll play for you is A Glimpse of Winter. arrangement of Jingle Bells. There's a musical joke which you may or may not understand, sort of maybe halfway through. So listen out for the musical joke to Jingle Bells.
Hold on, I'd like to say one thing real quick. I was in the marching band and the symphonic band when I went to Hendersonville, and we certainly never had a string orchestra. There were like 23, 24 people.
We have 25 students this year. so-
25. That is pretty good for an orchestra, to have a string orchestra. So good job, Ms. Mulford.
Thank you. Thank you. He'll just need a few minutes to come off the stage, but don't forget to retract your end pen and grab a stand and come down. Come on off as quickly as you can. Thank you so much.
Great job. Now we're going to go ahead and go into board chair observations. I just have one. I just appreciate everybody voting for me to be chair, but I will say I really appreciate the job that Mr. Craven has done in the past 4 years. And this seat is no different than that seat. So everybody is going to continue to work together and work very hard for the students of Henderson County. But I appreciate y'all, and I appreciate Ms. Revis. Board members' observations? Over here?
If I may, I want to recognize Tawana for putting on such a wonderful Christmas participation in the parade. It was amazing. It was awesome, and I can't wait to see what she's going to do next year. And, and of course, Kimbrell and her team put on, they came through with those T-shirts, and I was so thankful to be a part of that, and the students really loved that. Had a great tour with Glen Marlowe. What an awesome school. Challenging, competitive, and I don't want to say they party all the time, because they don't, but it's like a big party. A lot of fun.
Anyone else over here?
No, I just want to echo Jay's sentiments to you guys. I appreciate your confidence in me, and we'll work together. I know, Blair, you set a high bar for us as a leadership team to do this, and I appreciate all your years of leadership on this board, but I appreciate each and every one of us. It takes a collective group to do what we do, and we don't always agree, but you know what? That's what it's about. We can disagree respectfully, and I think we're stronger for it when we bring different perspectives to our school board. So anyway, thank you.
Over here? Go ahead.
Last Wednesday, I visited Clear Creek Elementary School, and I would like to thank Dina Wolf, the principal, and her staff for a wonderful visit. That school is 21 years old, and it looks practically brand new. You can walk down the halls, and they're just beautiful. The staff there in the classrooms are absolutely wonderful to visit. So if you get an opportunity, call the school and arrange a visit if you'd like. Thank you.
I visited Hendersonville Middle, which is my second visit to that school, and it was just as wonderful as the first. It's always a pleasure to go to our schools and really get the inside view. And man, I was telling them, I said, middle school is a whole nother ball game. I said, so kudos to you. You can tell they're all, the teachers and the staff are, it's really a calling. And so it's just so special to see. I also just wanted to say to all of our staff and students and families, as we're fixing to have a wonderful 2-week break, I hope and pray that everyone really takes that time to just separate from school, sports, all of it, and just spend some genuine, fun, special time with your family, your loved ones, your friends, and celebrate some special holidays. I really pray that that's a refreshing time for everyone. We really deserve that.
I do want to follow up one thing, and then but what Ms. Norman was talking about, this will be the first year that the semester will be done before Christmas, and we'll be starting a new semester after Christmas. This is the first year that this has been done. Well, it's actually the second. We had another one a couple years ago. But it's going to be really nice to end a semester before Christmas and start fresh after Christmas. There was an article in the paper about it today I read, so I was going to mention that. Sorry, Mr. Craven, go ahead.
Got a lot of things. I got to figure if I'm going to condense it or not. I truly appreciate the words from Dr. Revis and Chairman Egolf. I became chair in 2019, December. Boy, that was a different time. Everything seemed a little bit easier back then. And I appreciate folks like Miss Amy Lynn Holt and folks that were on the board that believed in me to take a leadership position at that time. And then, as you all know, March of 2020 happened and everything kind of flipped on its head. Saw a lot of good in the community, saw a lot of ugly, a whole lot of ugly. And through it all, I tried to be the best leader that I could for this particular board and try to put a lot of that stuff aside that was sent to me and emailed and text and written and whatever. But it was hard on my family. It was really, really tough, especially my wife. So give a shout out to her. I know she's probably one of the 9 people listening. Love you. And to my kids who have had to put up with it and all my shenanigans. And you still got me for a year here, so I'm not going away. And I look forward to getting some things done over this next year. But I look forward to seeing what you guys can do and the direction you take this board. That's it. Thank you.
I do want to say something. When we had COVID going on and this audience was filled and we had, I don't know, Blair, how many? 4 police officers? 5?
We had one at each door.
I mean, after every meeting, I went up to Blair and told him, good job. Because these were the hardest times for the public school system to go through. And I told him every single time, I said, good job, Blair, good job, Blair. So he really did. He earned his stripes. These last 4 years have been harder than any other 4-year term in history. So thank you very much for all that you've done. Sorry, now on to public comment. We do have 3, starting with, now I'm not the best with reading and writing and spelling, but Joyce Marsteller, correct? Hey, I'll take, oh, I've seen you before. Come on up.
I printed this time.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much for allowing this time. I really didn't want to come ever to a school board meeting. But I was a teacher and I care about kids. I was in Michigan teaching and I care about everything that is happening with them, to them and through them. And so 74 years ago, I was in kindergarten. And that's older than probably all of you, maybe put together. I don't know. But anyway, it was a long time ago. And so I thank you that this is an opportunity to speak to you about what I think that the Lord wants me to say. He wants me to tell you, first and most importantly, that he loves you, every one of us. There isn't a person in this room he wouldn't have died for. But our children are so important. Our children are everything. They are the future. And I was once one, I can't hardly remember it, but I was. And I enjoyed my childhood. I enjoyed the things that I did. Back in the day, we had Mrs. Atkinson, our 5th grade teacher, and we got to school, we said the pledge, we sang God Bless America, in the Star Spangled Banner, and then we had a silent prayer. And it was legal, and we got to do it. And we didn't have to pray out loud. Matter of fact, I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know what Christianity was. I didn't know, I was Jewish, what? And so I was really amazed at the fact that we had the silent time, which I drew things. But then as we got older and we went back and we had our reunions, I saw that this woman was the most favored of all of our class. We were a Class C school. And she was the one teacher that all of us agreed on was awesome. And that was because of who she loved. And since then, I've learned to love him myself. And at 25, you don't teach an old dog new tricks, but you can if you're a Christian. And I know that this school system that we are in now, because I was teaching, is changed drastically. It's gone from where we were to where we are. Not knowing if we're boys or girls, or not knowing and so much of the things are not educational. So much of them are attitudes. And so I just pray, Father God, let us do that which is right and let us not forsake doing that which is right, no matter what the cost. Like I said, I didn't really want to be here, but I was told I should be here, and I'm glad I'm here because I got to meet you. I got to meet you. And I'm so happy for it. And I'm blessed because of it. So I have 2 words for you. Merry Christmas. God bless you.
Thank you. Next we have Ms. Lyra Prickett.
My name is Lyra Prickett, and I'm here to speak about the Parents' Bill of Rights. I came last month and heard from adults representing teachers and other adults, I suppose. I myself used to be a teacher, and I am still a parent and now a grandparent. I remember when my children were still minors and I had all of the responsibilities of supporting them, caring for them, chauffeuring them here and there, providing extracurricular learning. I know that I didn't prioritize Board of Education meetings. I just hoped the school system and myself were on the same page. Luckily, that was the case. Today, I wanted to speak for the parents who couldn't be here to say thank you for those who are looking out for families and parental rights. Lastly, as a former teacher and a former student, thank you for ending the semester before Christmas.
Thank you, Ms. Prickett. Mary Ellen Custon, is she here? Okay. Well, go ahead and move on. Consent agenda. Approval for that.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
All in favor? Oh, second, that's right. I'm learning. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Old business. Mr. Garrett, the plan for low-performing school plans. Plan for
Sir,
low-performing
Mr.
schools.
Egoff, members of the board, at our last meeting, we were able to share with you the schools plans who have been designated as low performing, and we have had some feedback loop up since that time on our website. We have received no feedback at this time. To a reminder of those of you who are present and may not have been here or listened to our last meeting, our schools, all of our schools, all 23 of our schools have a school improvement plan that they do that is updated not only annually, but multiple times throughout the year. We use the NC STAR process. There is a link on our website that you can go in as a member of the public and see any of these plans at any time and provide those comments to your local schools. But right now, what we're talking about specifically is to meet the standard of the law for the approval for the schools that have been designated as low performing. So in front of you is a summary of the request and a motion, a suggested motion. So this is for Dana Elementary, Edneyville Elementary, Hillendale Elementary, Upward Elementary, Apple Valley Middle, and Flat Rock Middle. And I would entertain any questions that you may have since we had last month, but we have heard no comments from the public, and our schools have not had any comments as well.
Okay. I'll go ahead and take a motion.
I move the Henderson County Board of Public Education approve the final improvement plans for the schools designated as low performing.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
So, Mr. Chair, I'll do a reminder now that you have done that. We will submit everything to the state tomorrow, and that will conclude this season's schools that are designated low-performing requirements. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Carl Taylor, we have a Parents' Bill of Rights policy updates.
Good afternoon, board members. Tonight, bring back as old business the 7 policy updates related to the Parents' Bill of Rights. These policy updates were presented to you back in September for first reading, and then then at last month's meeting is when we had public comment available specifically for the Parents' Bill of Rights. And so these 7 policies come back to you tonight for second reading and final approval. And so happy to go through these individually, Mr. Egoff, if that's how you prefer, or just to open the floor up for
I
questions.
think we can go through each one and individually and then vote as a block.
Okay, sounds good. So as we look at these 7 policies, the first one that is updated is policy 1310/4002, which is in regards to parental involvement. This policy update substantially revises the policy to address the new requirements of the Parents' Bill of Rights. And Section G requires that the board fill in custom language, which is where parents can go to access resources within our community. And so we will put in a link there to our website that provides parents with access to resources. Includes minor editorial changes and then updates the legal references and updates the cross-references. So happy to answer any questions that you may have regarding policy 1310/4002.
Any questions? Okay.
We'd just like to encourage parents to read this bill. Really, I like the opt-in, opt-out portion of this bill, and the terminology that's placed in here, I think, is very good. Thank you.
The next policy is policy 3210. Parental inspection of and objection to instructional materials. And so this policy update consolidates the first 2 sentences of Section A and adds a reference to Policy 3200's definition of instructional materials, removes a statement exempting certain internet information from advanced parental review because the law does not provide such an exemption, adds a process in Section A for parents to inspect instructional materials, updates the legal references, and updates the cross-references. So any questions on Policy 3210?
Questions, comments? Okay, sir.
Next one is Policy 3540, Comprehensive Health Education Program. And so this policy update adds a provision in Section A prohibiting instruction on gender identity, sexual activity, or sexuality in kindergarten through grade 4, and then updates the legal references and updates the cross-references. Any questions or comments on Policy 3540?
Thank you, sir.
Next one is Policy 4335, Criminal Behavior. This policy update changes the requirement for reporting to parents when their child is suspected to be the victim of a crime, relocates custom language which was previously located in the second introductory paragraph to Section B. This custom language has been revised for clarity and alignment with the new reporting requirements and updates the legal references. Any questions or comments on Policy 4335?
Okay, thank you, sir.
Next one, Policy 4720, Surveys of Students. This policy update adds a reference to state law in the first sentence, changes the parental notification and consent requirements in Section A based on new state law requirements, adds a new Section B about well-being questionnaires and health screening forms, includes other minor editorial and organizational changes, and updates the legal references. Any questions on Policy 4720?
Thank you, sir.
Next policy, 6120, Student Health Services. This policy update includes minor changes to language and updates the legal references. Any questions or comments on Policy 6120?
Thank you, sir.
All right. And then the last one, Policy 7300, Staff Responsibilities. This policy update adds an employee responsibility to support parental involvement and never encourage a student to withhold information from their parents, and updates the legal references. Any questions or comments on Policy 7300?
I have a comment. I have been made aware of a thing called shadow reporting. Are you familiar with that? Yeah, it's a new term, I think. So it's where there's like 2 sets of books. So can we add something in as a proactive measure for possibly something future to arise? Can we add that into this bill or this policy for just to say all records, including. And what I have heard, and this is the information came from an attorney, and not ours, but the attorney said that there is a second set of books that some school districts are keeping that are not being shared with the parents because it is withholding medical information.
Ms. Dell, I don't know anything about that, but I know that there's no such thing
In Henderson
in
County.
Henderson County
We
Public
understand that.
Schools.
I understand that. This is a proactive measure. It's, instead of being reactive, it's proactive.
I would need a little bit, firstly, I would need to know if we did add this, would this change anything? Ms. Lopez, would this change anything with the policy?
I'm confused what you're asking. Like, what is a shadow book? And what is this?
Shadow report.
What is a shadow report and a shadow attorney that came up with
It's not a
this that we
shadow
need to add
attorney.
to a policy?
It's not a shadow attorney. His name is Matt Sharp, and he is with the Alliance for Defense. Anyway, so the shadow report is basically a second set of books that the school keeps private. If a student talks about something the parent, he or she doesn't want the parents to know, then they keep it separate. And that's all I can explain about it, because that's what I've just heard. It is my prerogative to bring that to the attention of this board and to this policy, because this is where it would land. And I would like some further information and some further updating on that. I think it's not against any kind of out of the question rule to look at.
So it's like maybe teachers are keeping a separate documentation file
Yes,
when a student talks with them or shares information with them.
correct. That's what I understand.
I've never heard that term either. That's a new term for me, too. What does the general statute say on written files of a teacher?
My feeling is that that issue is probably already addressed by the statute and by the policies, that teachers and school employees have a duty to accurately maintain records. And so I guess maybe that would be a way to take a look at it, is to see if there's anything, I mean, I don't know of, I'm trying to envision how you would want that, like, you really are supposed to do this, I mean, how would you incorporate that into your policy, I guess, would be my question. But I think the obligation exists already not to do that, but I would be glad to come back to the board with some specific language.
So, Ms. Lopez, I think that's in the 115C code where it talks about the responsibilities of educators, and it spells them out very specifically. Maintain accurate records is one of those. In
And the
this,
code of conduct and the code of ethics for teachers
right,
as well.
right, and that's one of those thou shalt nots. There's a lot of things that aren't, but that is codified very clearly in 115C dash, I don't remember which one it is off the top of my head, I'm sorry. In this one, I guess my question would be, this does not specifically talk about maintaining records. It just talks about those staff responsibilities in each of those portions. So I would question too, what would you like to see added, and where would you like a number 8?
I suppose it's just making an awareness about it, that it is a possibility, not here. I just want to get in front of it so it doesn't happen here. And I don't know where to put it. I literally have debated over this at all, even bringing it up, but, the possibility is there.
And to answer your question, Dr. Revis, I think, what occurs to me right off the top of my head is the duties of teachers under 115C 306 or 307, but, I'm sure we could bring to the board other statutory references that show that the obligation of teachers exist already to keep accurate records and that kind of thing.
There are no such thing as hidden records, correct? That are not.
Well, and then you also have your FERPA obligations too, with regard to student records, to provide them to a parent.
So what you're saying is we're covered, 100% covered?
Well,
Yes,
to the
The parent, okay,
To the extent that I understand your question,
okay,
yes, I believe
okay.
that you are covered,
The parents are covered.
that parents are
Just
covered.
The staff is covered. Okay, 100%. There's, okay. Okay.
Let's go ahead and vote on the first 6. And if there are any discussions and way people want to vote for the 7th one, that would be fine. So let me have a motion to approve the first 6 that were read, if we could.
I make a motion that we approve the first 6 policies of the Bill of Rights. It's policy 1310 to 402, policy 3210, policy 3540, policy 4335, policy 4720, and policy 6120.
Thank you, Mr. Bridges. Is there a second? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. First 6 will pass. For the 7th,
And that may not be the best place to insert something like inspection of records or maintaining records. I don't know.
If I may, Ms. Dell, would you be amenable to allowing us to go through those codes and to then get that information out to you all as a board about
Absolutely.
where those thou shalts are?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay.
okay, so let me ask you this. This is a second reading, does require a vote. Can we table, or do we need to vote with what?
Well, one of your, I was just going to say, some of these policies need to be in place in order to comply with
Right.
the parents.
You
Parents.
have to vote on it.
Right, so
You have to pass it.
To comply with the law.
General statute.
your
Okay.
deadline is January.
It is. You will not meet again before the law is in place.
I'll take a motion for the last one.
So I go ahead and make a motion for the last policy, policy number 4300, 7300, excuse me.
Thank you, Mr. Bridges. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I would just like to investigate this issue of shadow records. It's a new phenomenon to me, and I just think we need to all be in the know. If this is something that's happening, we need to be in the know. But I'm not sure it goes here, so.
Okay, we will report back. So all in favor of the motion that was brought up and seconded? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to, for those watching and who may not have seen these first couple of times, these are not new policies. These are policies that have been around for quite a while. We are aligning these to the Parents' Bill of Rights and codifying a few things in there. And I also want to, I think, take the opportunity, and Ms. Dell, I'm glad you said that. This is not a concern here about the shadow records or any of that. Certainly want our folks to understand that we know the job you're doing out there is an excellent job, and we will get that information to show you in code under the other laws and statutes. So I will gather that, and I will email all of you that information. I won't even wait till the next meeting. I'll go ahead and get it to you. Thank you.
Okay, we're moving on to the new business, the approval, and this is just a first reading, but we're talking about the 2024-2025 flex calendar. Mr. Carl Taylor again, sir.
Yes.
You're going to get tired of Carl here in just a minute. So.
Yeah, you can send me home whenever. So in terms of our calendars tonight, we're bringing to you actually 2 years' worth of calendars for the 24-25 school year and the 25-26 school year. These calendars were developed, first of all, through the work of our calendar committee. So that group was convened in early November and made up of a staff member from each one of our schools. And so in that meeting, they were able to look really at just this year's calendar adapted to each of those school years and provide feedback and provide ideas for changes. And through that discussion, a consensus was reached on what an original draft calendar would look like for flex, traditional, early college for both of these upcoming school years. Once that draft was developed, the calendar representatives were then able to take those drafts back to their schools, share it with each of their individual schools to receive feedback. That feedback was then shared back with us. Again, a consensus was reached from that feedback on the calendars that are being presented to you tonight. These calendars were shared with our STAC, our Superintendent Teacher Advisory Committee, our Superintendent Parent Advisory Committee as well to receive their feedback, and then a general discussion also with SGA leaders to receive some student input as well. So lots of individuals have had their opportunity to see these calendars and provide us with feedback. And so we'll start with the 24-25 Flex calendar. Again, just some general guidelines to this calendar. It's made up of 215 days. 11 of those days are holidays, 10 annual leave days, and then 194 student days and teacher work days added together. So that's how we reach that 215 day for a calendar. The calendar also has to meet the minimum instructional hours for students, and that minimum set by the state is 1,025 instructional hours. On the Flex calendar, when students are in session, each of those sessions has to consist of 43 to 47 student days. And then when an intersession arrives, it has to include 14 to 18 student days off. So as we look at this calendar, the teachers would report back July 5th. That would be an optional teacher workday. And then the next week, students would return on July 11th. And then going into August, there is a teacher workday scheduled for August 7th, which would align with our traditional and early college calendar, as that would be a district professional development day. And then students, that first session would end on September 13th. And so the first intersession would go from September 16th through October 4th for students. Students would return on October 7th for the second session, or the second 9 weeks. As you look at November, just want to highlight that November 5th, that will be a presidential election day. And so we've, on these draft calendars, you will see that as a teacher work day. So no students in our buildings since that is a presidential election day. November 11th is Veterans Day, and that again is required by our state to be a holiday on our calendars. The Thanksgiving holidays are the 27th through the 29th. And then the session would end on December 13th with a half day for students. Students would return in January on January 6th. As we look at January 20th is an optional teacher workday, and that aligns with the Martin Luther King holiday. The students' last day in this session is March 7th. March 17th through the 21st is designated as the spring break on this calendar, and that will align with the traditional and early college calendars that you will see next. April 18th is an annual leave day, and that aligns with the Easter weekend. And then as we look at May 26th is a holiday for Memorial Day, and then the last day for students on this calendar would be May 30th. So I'll take any questions, comments, or open it up for discussion at this time.
And so this calendar complies with the legal guidelines of the time in and time out?
Yes, ma'am. So
I didn't count them all up. Thank you.
yeah, so as we look at the first session there from July into September, that consists of 45 student days. So in between that 43 to 47 range. The second 9 weeks for students, again, is 45 days for that session. The third session from January into March consists of 44 student days, and then the final one consists of 43 student days. So that minimum number that's required. You're welcome.
I have a question for the superintendent. What kind of feedback have you received from the public or students or teachers in regard to the fact that we started early this year?
So, Mr. Bridges, on the flex calendar, nobody's really talked to me about the flex calendar start dates. I think they're accustomed to that. The biggest difference that we are hearing is that folks are very happy to be ending the semester, going into holiday break. That is consistent across our Parent Advisory Council, our Teacher Advisory Council, our Joint Student Government Association actually talked about it last week. And then the calendar committee also made those same comments. There's a little bit of crossover on the teacher advisory to the calendar committee, but it's not 100% the same group. So we have heard zero negative feedback. And just anecdotally, when I'm out at ball games and other things, I've also heard very good feedback on the fact that we were able to start in such a manner to end the semester. It was interesting. I also asked our 7-period day school, Hendersonville High School, and they still felt good about finishing the semester right now because it allows them to kind of make a cleaner break as well, which I wouldn't think was as big a deal there, but they seem to all enjoy it. Some of the elementaries are giving us feedback too about getting some of their assessments completed before the break. So it seems to be a much cleaner break for everybody over the next 2 weeks once we get out for Christmas.
Sorry, I always forget to turn this on and off. I'm a little out of practice. But the traditional and early college calendar.
Okay. So the one that's being presented to you this evening is a combined calendar that does have an early start date, as Mr. Garrett shared with you. The consensus by our calendar committee, the SPAC, and just general feedback that we receive from all of our schools is a consensus in support of an early start date for the traditional calendar as well. And so that's why it's all on one calendar being presented to you this evening. So the first, as we look at this in August, the first student day would be August 12th. Again, this calendar meets the criteria of 215 total days, 11 holidays, 10 annual leave, and then a combination of student days plus teacher work days adding up to 194. As we then transition into September, students would be out on September 2nd for the Labor Day holiday. The first 9 weeks would end in October, and so that's where you see an optional teacher workday on October 14th and then a required one on October 15th. Again, positive feedback that we received from both calendar committee and then just general feedback from our schools as they appreciated those 2 workdays in October. Again, looking at November 5th, that is a teacher workday since that is, again, election day next in 2024. November 11th, again, is Veterans Day, the Thanksgiving holidays there at the end of the month, and then the semester would end for students in December on December 20th. Then as we look in January, students would return on January 6th. January 20th, again, is an optional teacher workday aligning with Martin Luther King holiday. Students would be out in February on the 14th with a required teacher workday. And then as we look into March, again, spring break being that 3rd week in March, that does align with the flex calendar as well. So that, again, feedback we received from the calendar committee is making sure that those spring breaks do align. They recognize that we have families that potentially are going to be on 2 different calendars, and having 2 different spring breaks really wouldn't make sense for those families. So that was feedback that we received from the committee. And then in April, again, April 18th is an annual leave day. And then looking into May, the final student day would be May 23rd, that Friday right before Memorial Day holiday. So any questions or comments on this one?
Can I say a few things? So I was on that calendar committee. There was a couple of things that really stood out. I wish we all would have actually been there to hear a lot of this. So there's a representative from each and every school. And the differences between elementary, middle, and high school is really, it's really apparent on what's more important to a 3rd grade teacher versus a world civ teacher in high school. And why we don't have a longer Thanksgiving but there was a couple of overarching things that were really, really important. Number one, they love that we have a DPD day on February 14th. They didn't want any kids in the building on Valentine's Day. I was just as amazed, but we talked about it for what, 10 minutes minimum? We talked about that day. So that was one. Number 2 is making sure that those spring breaks were really aligned. And not only aligned with us, with our flex calendar, with our early college calendar, with this traditional calendar, but with the community college as well. The community college did have a different spring break at that particular time, but then they've worked with us to match this particular spring break so that we are all have the same spring break throughout Henderson County. Very important. And then lastly, I asked, I think, 2 or 3 separate times during the meeting, we met for what, a couple hours or whatever it was. What do you guys want to do about starting early? And there was not one person in that room that did not want to start early. They really like the calendar that we have this year. They like that we're getting out in May. And that was that. I made sure to look at each and every person, raise your hand, tell me now or forever. They all wanted it. I wish everybody here could have heard that because it meant a lot. So I wish I'd have had everybody on that committee. I did not. But this was a consensus for all those that were involved.
And just to follow up with what Mr. Craven has said, you know, we live in a society where we get together and we talk and we discuss and we come up with answers and we come up with things that'll work for people. And I think that is just what this calendar group did. When you have a representative from 23 schools and you have the people, who else was on this, Blair?
So it was myself, Mr. Taylor, Mr. Garrett, some of Mr. Taylor's staff, and then there was a representative from each school. The principal elects one of the teachers, and they came and represented their school. And then we asked them to take back, you know, there's always some questions about, do you take this particular day off, or would you rather have this as your annual leave day, depending on where the semester ended? And some people want to know this. It was just really interesting to hear the elementary difference. Really, it's elementary and high school. Middle school was kind of like, whatever. But the elementary and high school were very vastly different on why they wanted to start or not on a particular day. But every single person agreed that they love the calendar that we have this year and they want to see it go forward. Every one of them. But who else was on there? Just us 3, right?
Was there any
Yes.
parent representation?
Not,
other
not
than-
on this. This was just the, this was just his office.
So how
us.
did parents have a voice?
So we presented this draft to the Parent Advisory Committee. STAC got to see it, Parent Advisory got to see it as well. So that is where we got that parental impact. That same consistency about the start date is echoed in the Parent Advisory Council. The other piece that we did is we offered this for the staffs to then take it and share it with their collective school staffs and gather that input as well, which we did. I read through all the input that we got. There was a few things on start date here and there, just 1 or 2 pieces. Every single feedback that was submitted, except for 2, advocated for an early start. And the 2 that weren't had something to do with some vacation, family vacation pieces, which again is one of the things, Dr. Revis, where we're talking about maybe doing a 2-year calendar out so that people always have an idea, and we try to avoid that conflict with Blue Ridge Community College, which has to put their calendar out a little bit earlier than we typically do. So just trying to encapsulate all of that feedback and is directly reflected on the 2 calendars, Flex and the traditional early college that you see before you tonight.
But am I correct in saying this calendar does not meet the general statutes?
You are absolutely correct.
Did the calendar committee, was that addressed with the teacher representative group when they met? They understand
We
that
covered
we are
the-
breaking the general statutes when we.
First thing we did was we took the calendar law and the parameters for developing a calendar, which
Right.
includes the number of holidays, annual leave days, all
Right.
through pieces, and we covered that with the
Through
committee.
it, okay.
And
Well, it
then-
all makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
I think the general statutes that requires a local school board to follow is ridiculous. I think this makes perfect sense. But I personally have a problem, the same problem I did last year. I appreciate all the work that our teachers, our parents, all the representatives and the input that was given, and I understand that is very nice to be, particularly high school students, being able to close the chapter on a course this week. I understand all that, and I understand the opportunities that this helps us align with the community college. But as I said last year, I took an oath of office that I would uphold the general statutes, and we all took that oath of office, and it's also in our board policy. How do we go against our board policy? It's just a question that I would throw out there to my colleagues, because if we're going to not follow the general statutes on the calendar law, because we all agree it makes sense, right? And I'm sure there's other general statutes that we don't like complying with either, that our community and our parents and our students probably would say, oh yeah, we could, we would like to do it this way. I mean, where does it stop? How do we decide what general statutes that we're going to uphold and what general statutes we are going to ignore? I have a personal conflict with that. It's an ethical thing for me. Again, this calendar makes good sense. But I took an oath of office. It's in my school board policy, and I'm sorry, I cannot vote for this calendar. I'm one vote, and that's what the beauty of our school board is. And I just wanted to explain to you guys, once again, you're tired of hearing me say this, but I just can't do it.
Well, Dr. Revis, I'll say this. We, and me particular, never get tired of hearing from you. That's okay. But second of all, this is either my fifth or sixth year being here, depending on when you, anyway, when I put my school board hat on, it becomes, and it's hard to explain, and I can't explain to you why I think this way, but I do. When I put my school board hat on and I look out and I look at the kids and I look at the students and I look at my children, I'm like, what is best for them? And when I look at them, I look at elsewhere, I look at other classrooms, I look at other schools, I look at counters, I look at people going to Blue Ridge, I look at dual enrollment, I look at everything. And I just have to vote for the students. This is better. That's why I'm here, is to make their education as best as I can, the best I can make Henderson County education for our children, the best it can be. This follows that. And I understand. I understand your point.
This is best for students. However,
Now,
within the confines of the law.
You said, I understand. That's the way I have to look at it. I was reelected because of parents, people out there thought I was one of the best to help them with the education in Henderson County. That's why I'm voting for this. We're not voting tonight. We are presenting this to the public. I am not shutting off discussion. We can certainly still discuss it, but that's just the way that I feel personally. Who would else like to say anything?
I think it's going to mirror the conversation that we had, a year ago. I think the calendar is perfect. You guys did a great job. The one part I wanted to point out is, I know it was really important to me specifically, and I believe everyone on the board, is that we did not have school on Election Day. Excuse me, I'm sorry. We had many parents, people, families that felt very uncomfortable, and rightfully so, that those were places where thousands of people would come and vote while their child was in school. So I really appreciate that was high on my priority list, and I'm pretty sure everyone else as well, that was a major safety issue and just not something that I personally ever want to see again. If we're going to use our schools, which is fine for a voting location, I never want our kids in session that day. So I really appreciate that. That was something that we had discussed, and I want to make sure that never gets overlooked. That's important. But I appreciate Kathy's opinion. I'm similar, the same with her. it's a difficult one. It really is a conflicting decision, but I think it's perfect. You guys did an excellent job. We'll vote on it next month, so.
Ms. Bridges, you have anything? Ms. Dale? Okay, thank you, sir. On to 25-26. We're doing the 2-year plan,
Yes.
so
So as
25-26 flex.
Mr. Garrett had mentioned, from the calendar committee also came a discussion about the value of having a 2-year calendar out there, as this allows our families opportunities to plan ahead for any types of trips maybe that they're looking at scheduling in the future, but also it allows us in our conversations with Blue Ridge Community College to be able to share with them exactly what the future looks like for our district as well. And so both of these are going to be very similar to what we've already seen for 24-25. So as we look at the flex calendar for 25-26, again, students return that second week in July, so the first student day is July 10th. As we look at August again, there is a district PD day set aside that aligns on all of the calendars for professional development for our teachers. Then in September is when that first session would end for students on September 12th. Students would return in October. Then as we look at November, again, November 11th is Veterans Day, and so that has to be a holiday on our calendar. And then the Thanksgiving holidays there at the end, and then students would wrap up December 12th. Students would return in January on the 5th. Again, as we look, there's an optional teacher work day in January 19th for the Martin Luther King holiday. Students are out in February on the 20th for district professional development, and then students would wrap up that third session on March 6th. Again, spring break is aligned there the third week in March. Students return March 30th. As we look at April 3rd is an annual leave day. That aligns with the Easter weekend. And then again, as we look at May, students would finish up that last week in May on May 29th. So any questions or comments here on the flex calendar for 25-26?
Thank you, sir.
All right.
And now 25-26 traditional and early college.
Yes, sir. So again, as we look at this one, has students starting on August 11th. Then as we look into September, again, the Labor Day holiday is scheduled there September 1st. And then as we look into October, again, 2 work days there that would align with the end of the first 9 weeks there on October 13th and 14th. As we look into November, November 11th again for Veterans Day and the Thanksgiving break at the end of the month. And then in December, the last day for students would be December 19th. Again, that would mark the end of the first semester. As we look into January, students would return January 5th. As we look into February, again, there's a district PD day that is aligned on both flex and on the traditional and early college calendar there on February 20th. Spring break that third week in March, as we saw on the flex calendar. As we look at April, an annual leave day there on the 3rd, and then the final student day in May would be May 22nd. So any questions or comments on this calendar?
I do have one thing. If again, I feel like I'm trying to represent the students and their parents of Henderson County. If I'm getting the wrong reading, if I'm getting, and not just me, but all the people that are going to vote for this traditional calendar, if I'm getting the wrong reading, email me, send me a letter, let me know. But I just don't see zero opposition to this calendar. But if that's the wrong reading, let me know, because we are elected and we are here to represent our constituents, and our constituents are the parents of the students of the county. And let me know. Let us know if I'm getting the wrong reading. But what I'm hearing from everybody, and Mr. Craven is on this committee, and he's saying that there are over 25 people on this committee, and we've reached out to parent groups, according to Mr. Garrett, our superintendent. I don't hear the complaints. I don't hear the problems. And I'm here to represent y'all, and all of us that vote are here to represent y'all. So if we're getting the wrong reading, let us know. Any other comments about this?
So one thing I would like to share is parent groups. We did present this to our parent advisory. We've not necessarily reached out to other parent groups, just for clarity. We're certainly welcome. The design of having the first reading is to provide for the opportunity for that feedback.
Yep.
And Dr. Revis, just so that you know, we did also develop and share with the calendar committee the one based on the current calendar law as well. So they have seen both of them side by side with the 24-25 and the 25-26.
It was actually 3, but
Right, it would be 3 that way, because your early college would be a separate.
early college has to be this calendar. It's just tradition.
So, our spring break, it's not, is it at the end of the third dynamic grading period, or how are we deciding that it's the third week in March, or what? Because we're not aligned to our Easter break anymore, or Easter.
So for the consistency between the flex and the traditional in early college, the third week in March is the one that will always fall within that intercession on the flex. And again, it does align with an end of a grading period as well.
And that was part of the talking points as well, and that's why we did the Good Friday off, was one of the annual leave days.
Anything else? Okay, we have a resolution about protecting our kids from vaping and nicotine addiction. Let me turn that over to our superintendent, Mr. Garrett. He'll lead us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What you have before you was shared with me by our local Department of Public Health. Their director sent me an email and talked about their advisory board have been talking quite a bit about vaping. I think the conversations that you all have had this current semester has really gotten some local community boards also talking about just the vaping epidemic and some of the e-cigarette stuff. So they plan to adopt this resolution. This is one that comes out of the health department world, and asked if you would be interested in considering that as another as a public board and as a publicly elected board. So that is why you have it here. It is a pretty general resolution that talks about protecting our kids from vaping and nicotine addiction. So again, they plan to, it is their intent and plan to adopt this at their next meeting, but we met before they are actually meeting. So I'll be glad to entertain any questions you may have or anything about this resolution.
Okay, thank you, sir.
I have some.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
That's
Sorry.
fine. I think, there's nothing in here that obviously I don't disagree with. I certainly would love to see the age be raised from 18 to 21 to buy these products. I guess one thing I'm a little bit, I brought this topic up months ago. We've now talked about it. We have had special speakers come that were extremely knowledgeable and gave us so much information. So while I'm fine, I'm not disagreeing with anything in the resolution. I think it's fine. But resolutions, I don't really understand the purpose in full honesty. I think if we have a clear issue in our schools, I think we've done a lot of talking about it. However, we haven't actually come to any sort of plan or agreement necessarily. And I think I just want to make sure that, like I said, I'm fine with this resolution, but, what about like a policy specifically within our schools? And I just want to make sure that we just do a lot of talking, and I want to make sure we actually have a very clear action plan on what that looks like within our schools.
So one of the first pieces that we've done as an administrative team was to make sure that the existing policies and the wiggle room within that existing policy is being applied consistently. We have done that with our principals at all levels. And what we're now gathering is our data and feedback on how many incidences we are actually seeing and how many of the vaping devices we're actually confiscating. So that is being recorded all the time. If there is something specific you as a board would like to see, if you would like to separate out of your policies that talk about student behaviors, then that is something that we could also develop locally. But our gathering facts right now, Ms. Norman, are looking at as we are now consistently applying the policies that are there, what is the impact that's having on either an increase, decrease, or whatever those are, looking at year-to-year comparison. So that is certainly something that we could develop if that would be the will of the board.
Anything else?
Yeah, I'll say one thing. The only thing that I'll say is resolutions aren't worth the paper that they're written on, in my personal opinion. I've never been a big fan of them. This was asked of us by Steve Smith, and I do respect him a whole bunch with the health department, Department of Health. But she's right. If you're going to do something, do something. Good talking about it.
How long do we anticipate being in the data collection phase before we look at something and see?
Well, I think we are coming to a point of our first semester where we can take a semester by semester look of, really, Dr. Evis, over several years that we would like to, depending on how far we want to go back. The biggest thing that I'm looking at right now is a comparison last year to this year, because this has been an emphasis kind of with our attendance policy as well, since we have gone through that and seeing what kind of real impact that is having in the immediacy. So with us ending the semester here in just a few days, we would have a closing point then to come back and say first semester 22-23 versus first semester 23-24.
So if I can, I agree with Alyssa that it's not. It just states the facts that we already know. And I would like to see the policy revamped and updated. So I would like to work on that. And I'd like to just make a comment about I know we're going to go back, but the school calendar, I don't want to see the kids bouncing back and forth. I just don't want to see that happen, but I don't want to break the law either. So I've been sitting here going, okay, you've got federal law, state law, and local law. And we're local. We make policies. We do that. So at what point do we go, we can't put these kids in a tug of war? I agree. I like the calendar. I just don't want to break the law. So can we work on that just a little bit, on making sure that we're not breaking the law? Because
Thought we were past that.
no, I know that.
Resolution.
I know that. I know we're on the resolution.
My goodness.
Excuse me. I've just been sitting here wondering how I could get this said.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Yep.
We did have a first reading, so, and I asked for discussion. So what we're gonna have to do is bring that up at maybe
Next
a
time, I'm
second
good with that.
reading.
Just letting my sentiments be known.
Absolutely, and I appreciate that. We're on to this, and what I would say about this is an issue. I just don't want to make sure whatever policy, if we make a policy for this shouldn't be any different than cigarettes. So, and if it's the same as cigarettes, why do we need a separate one? I'm just throwing this out there since we're discussing. But what I don't want to see is us really go after vaping, and then someone's got a pack of cigarettes in there, and then we're okay with it, or whatever the policy is for this has to be the same for dipping, chewing, smoking, whatever. Nicotine should all be nicotine. And if something else comes up next year, I don't want a different policy for.
One issue is sometimes vapes contain something different than nicotine is the only, and, I understand we do have a policy in place. However, like I said, I just feel like we have been discussing, hey, we still have this really big issue. Now, the community agrees, parents agree, the health department agrees. Like I said, this resolution was very well written. Everything is true.
But resolutions are.
That's my problem. And it's not to say, why did you send this to us? I'm just saying, I agree. However, me saying, yep, I agree, nothing changed by me saying that. So, do we need, I think it's a discussion, do we need a separate policy for vaping? Do you want to not have a separate, make sure it's the same? That's what we're here for, and that's what we discuss, and that's what we do. I'm just saying it's still a huge issue. I want to make sure that we are doing something rather than just talking about it. If we decide, hey, this is now and it is way bigger issue than any of these other, alcohol, tobacco, we're seeing something, this is still new. Nicotine is not new, but the amount and the use and the prevalence, it is new. It's a new pandemic here, or epidemic, whatever, So if we want to make it a new policy, let's make it a new policy. I just want to make sure we have the final discussion and do it. And since it is so prevalent, and we have the concern of so many kids being sent out of school, none of us like kids at home. We don't. Let's say, okay, do we need to make a specific list of, how this works? There's 1,000 things that can be done around the school that needs to be done, work-related, whatever. We don't have to send them home. They can do a lot of other things, including their schoolwork. There's plenty of other things. We can get creative and work on it to not say, you're out, I think we're all very intelligent. We bring a lot to the table. We agree. So I'm just saying, whatever we do, I just want to make sure we're doing it.
Would there be time on that January the 8th work session? I know that's been kind of earmarked for budgeting, but would there be time for us to have some kind of work session discussion of our board policy? And once we have data, at least a semester's worth of data in our hands, then to look at, make some decisions about the policy, whether we need to revise or add, whatever we need to do, make a new policy or whatever. Could we do that on that January the 8th?
We can make a new policy whenever we want, correct?
You can recommend, and then we can work with our attorneys to make sure that it does follow statutory requirements. And then you would have the opportunity to have a first reading and adopt that if you so
We
choose.
do have a policy. We've got a policy on illegal drugs. We've got a policy on tobacco. We've got a policy on alcohol. And it's like Mr. Garrett says a lot of the times, it's not so much the policy, it's how does your administration effectively administer that policy, right? So how are your principals effectively looking at their issues that they have in their particular school and dealing with them? Of course, we don't want to send kids home, so are there alternative? We don't want to stick them in ISS all day. Typically, you got your repeat offenders. It's hard to find. Do the vape detectors work? Do we want to spend the money on that? I think it's less about the policy and more about the data that we need to get from our principals. Is anything that we're actually doing working? Is there anything that you can actually do to eradicate it? Which the answer is absolutely no, but you can make it better than what it is. I think it's less about staring at what policy you have and then making some of those administrative decisions on is North doing the same thing as East, as West, as Hendersonville, as the early college, and what can we do to drive those numbers down to also make sure that we're keeping kids in school, so that they're learning. And if that doesn't work, then what's the next step, right? I don't think it's just beat a policy to death. It's really administering the policies that we have in place.
But I would like to know, do our principals feel like the policy gives them what they need in order to, that's what we do as a board. We set policies. And I would just say, I've heard enough discussion on our board to know, we got some board members that want to roll their sleeves up and dive into that policy.
Well, then read the policy.
It's not about reading the policy, Blair. It's about, let's examine the policy, let's gather some data, let's ask principals, through Mr. Garrett, do they think this policy gives them what they need in order to administer it? Is it too vague? Does it leave too much up for discussion? Do they need it more specific? Whatever. Maybe they don't need a change. But I think, I've heard this come up now for how many months? And we ignore anything about it. Let's look at the policy.
My question at hand right now is, do we need a resolution for this vaping problem, period? Do we or don't we? I'm hearing no, we don't need a resolution. We don't need to pass this resolution. If we need a new policy, if we need to administer a new,
I don't know.
if we need to change the policy or update it, let's do that. That's up to the administration, that's up to the principals, administrative, and assistant principals. Like Ms. Norman said, it's a new thing going here. 5 years from now, it's going to be something else to you.
Be something
We
new.
have to change it again. But do we need this resolution in our county right now? Good does it do, period?
So if I may remind you, this was brought again by another organization who is trying to support the work that's going on with the vaping epidemic and stuff that is going on in your community. And then when I have shared it out to see if you want it on this agenda, you all agreed. Now, I don't care if you pass it or don't, but that was really the impetus of it showing up on your agenda, was a request at the request of a partnering agency who is trying to come alongside and support this work that's taking place.
I think out of respect for their request, I don't disagree with it. I'm fine, just for me personally, I'm fine to say,
Yes.
sure, perfect. I think I would ask if Mr. Garrett would, between now and the next meeting, touch base with all of our middle and high school principals and just make sure we specifically know exactly currently what's being done, their feedback, if they have any ideas, what's maybe been working or hasn't, maybe we can finally have some sort of agreement and just plan on it the best we can. Like you said, it changes. It's not going to go away. But if we can at least just feel like we're doing good work here and that we're making some sort of progress in addressing it, I think that would be wonderful.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I may, one thing that I would suggest is that we can look at our surrounding area. We use Campbell Shatley. I know that they know of multiple local policies that are there, to see if they know of a district that has adopted a separate e-cigarette vaping policy. Our initial feedback, Ms. Norman, from our principals is they like the flexibility within the current policy, but now that we have gone through the semester, we can certainly follow back up with them to see what their suggestions could be, because really, they're the ones who are living it every day, and they're the ones who are chasing this this very challenging opportunity as an administrator. So if that would please the board, those are two things that we certainly could have available for the January meeting.
And then would that be for the meeting or for the work session scheduled earlier?
At your directive, sir, I can have it at either one.
I would prefer we talk about it at the 12 o'clock. Do you think we'll have time? I know that's 3 hours before our closed session, so it sounds like to me we would have enough time.
Well, the two things that I could have for you there would be who has a separate policy and what are they? We can just copy them for you. They're public. And then to let you know what our principals have had as far as feedback from this first semester.
And then we'll use that information if we want to vote or discuss or propose or at our meeting in January. Does that sound okay?
Would you be able to have the data, the comparison data? That's awful quick, isn't it? I don't know how.
Mr. Taylor, the way they're recording it now, it's a little easier to get, correct? Power School this year, for the first time, has created a category that makes it a little bit easier to track e-cigarettes or vaping,
That would be great.
which may make it a little more challenging to compare to last year
It
because,
will, definitely.
but we can certainly see where we're sitting from August through December.
Are you ready for a motion on this? Is that where we are?
So I'll accept the motion.
I move that we approve the resolution for protecting our kids for vaping and nicotine addiction.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, passes. Going down to, we have some superintendent report, board and superintendent's reports. Mr. Taylor, you're up again. Thank you, sir. Got a little break. That's right. Capital update.
All right. For this month's capital update, again, we will start with our Henderson County Public School projects. Right now, currently, we have one big one still that's wrapping up, and that is our playground upgrades. We're hopeful before we go home for the holiday break that those projects will be finished. A lot of what's left now and what's being done last week and throughout this week is concrete work, landscaping to finish up those spaces. So we're definitely on the short rows when it comes to that project. As we look at MRTS projects in working with the county, we have quite a few of those underway. To start with, the HVAC replacement at Atkinson, that continues to be in the engineering phase. For that project, just as a reminder, that's going to be broken into 3 phases, and so that engineer is working on phase 1 and designing that. For the roof replacement, Bonnets Incorporated received that bid, and they actually were out at Flat Rock Middle School last week. Part of the roof replacement is for the awning there at Flat Rock. Has some major issues when it rains, and so they're going to look at repairing that area there at Flat Rock, and then also some roofing projects included at North and West. Bonnets also received the bid, or won the bid, and received the contract for gutter and downspout replacement work at East Henderson, Fletcher, and Henderson Middle School. They've not started on that project just yet, though. As we look at HVAC controls upgrades at most of our elementary schools, the bid opening for that was December 6th, so last week. And so hopefully that contract will go to, or that companies, their bid will go to the commissioners at their first meeting in January for their approval. For Upward Elementary, again, 2 parts to that project. The secure entry, you can see an awesome word next to that, and that awesome word being completed. That's been a long time coming. The cafeteria part of that, we are awaiting the guaranteed maximum price on that part of the project. If you can go back up, yeah. And then one other piece with West Henderson, we are having a pre-construction meeting there tomorrow with Carolina Specialties to start planning for that project to begin. But also we are awaiting the guaranteed maximum price for that project, and so that will have to receive commissioner approval before that project can get underway. But to finish up, I do have some pictures here for you to see from Upward Elementary with that secure entry. And so the first picture you see there to the left, that is the exterior entrance. So now visitors and guests are able to walk into through those doors into that secure entry or vestibule area there. On the wall is the buzzer where they have to get buzzed in. So they hit the call button. That lets the front desk person know that someone's out there wanting to get in. And so once they've identified their reason and purpose for being there, they then get buzzed into that door. So that door, the doors into the building are always locked, but then they get buzzed into that brown door that you see there. Here's a couple of pictures of that secure lobby area. And so there is a window there that is secured for the front desk person. So when someone enters into that secure lobby, she can open that up to have a conversation with them. The other picture shows the 2 doors, kind of their options as they leave. They can exit back out through that door to the right that takes them back out of the building, or they have to get buzzed in through that door to the left that provides them access into the school. And then here's just a couple of other pictures for you. That's the secure entrance from inside the school, so that's the door people would have to get buzzed through to access the building. And then the other one is the viewpoint from the main office. As you look at that picture, a couple of things are going to happen over our Christmas break. We're going to take out the receptionist desk there and put in new flooring so that it matches the flooring that is inside of the secure lobby. We're also, as you can see all the way back there towards the door that goes into Mr. Gates' office, you can see some green paint still on that wall. We're going to repaint that space as well. So the flooring will go down that hallway all the way to where there's a staff workspace, and then also repaint that area. We're going to order, a new desk has been ordered for the receptionist there as well so that that space can be updated. She'll have a temporary desk there to work from until her new desk arrives. So I'll answer any questions or that you may have at this time.
It's awesome. That's a long time coming right there.
Amen to that.
Thank you, sir. Financial statements, Mr. Bernie Soch. How are you, sir?
How are you guys this evening?
Good. I'll answer you.
Hey, thanks. Tis the season, you know.
I feel like the guy coming after Carl played the whole game. I come in the last minute, we must be up by like 20 or 30 points, so they put me in. Dribble off my foot or something, I don't know. I just have a quick financial report for operations for local current expense and other restricted as of November 30th. We have received revenues year-to-date of $17,411,000, and our expenditures are at $15,713,000. And just to point out that in November, we paid out $2.96 million to our staff in the first half of the local supplement. So hopefully everybody received that and is enjoying it. But I'll take any questions if you have them.
Nope.
I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Merry Christmas.
General operations, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. It's my pleasure to share the operations report for this month. Coming very quickly is Christmas break, and it's coming even more quickly for our flex calendar schools. They begin their break. Their last day, early dismissal, is on December the 13th, so Wednesday. Also on the 13th, as they are exiting for this semester, our high school students will be beginning their testing for this semester. So their testing window will be the 13th through the 19th. It's an optional teacher work day for flex calendar schools on the 14th. And then winter break proper for them is the 15th through January the 2nd. Our semester ends on December the 19th, and that will be an early dismissal day for our early college and traditional calendar schools. Winter break for all staff and students then makes it December 20th through January the 1st. January is School Board Appreciation Month. I'm sure you will feel much different in that 1 month than you do the other 11. Required teacher workday for all staff is January the 2nd, no school for students. And then January the 3rd, second semester begins, all students return to school. We have our board tours on that first day back, which is pretty interesting timing. And we'll be going to Hendersonville High School, Dana Elementary School, and Rugby Middle School. And then our regular business meeting will be January the 8th. It is early in the month this time because January 1st is on your first Monday. So your second Monday will be January the 8th. And if I can have just a moment, I'd love to wish every student, family, staff member, our entire community, those of you who come out and visit with us each month, a very Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year. It's hard to think 2024, but when we return and we sit down as a body again, it will be 2024. And may this holiday season be the best one yet. And to kind of piggyback on Ms. Norman's, I hope that you're able to do those things that you love with the people that you love, and to leave this business aside for a couple of weeks, because it will be here and be fast and furious when we return for 2024. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Anything else from everybody? Comments, questions? I'll take a motion to adjourn. Second? I'll approve.